want answers.
I want the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
The last thing I have to add for the time being, and I'll shut up and let somebody else talk, is the last really shady act by Kirkpatrick is his aiming everybody who claimed they saw anything about whatever in crash retrievals, alien bodies, etc., at Kona Blue, which was the code program he damn sure knew never left a piece of paper. Kirkpatrick made a move as he left the door of blaming all the idiocy and lunacy on Kona Blue, which never had the wherewithal to do anything because it was never a program. It never had a storage facility. It never had an office. It never had a telephone or an email. Kirkpatrick tried to distract the media to look at the stupidity of people doing UFOs by aiming them at Kona Blue when he knew it was a nothing burger. He is a scumbag. I'm sorry. There's more levels of obfuscation and twisted paths for classification than you can even think. And John put up on his Black Vault tweet today. Kirkpatrick had Title 10 and 50, so he had everything. I got news for you. That's about half of all the classification systems. There's a big 50% he doesn't have access to.
I see Lou. You got your hand up. What's up, dude?
What's up,
Hey,
Lou?
what's up? What's up, guys? I have a question for Bob, if that's cool.
For sure.
Shoot.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Hey, Bob, you were in the intelligence sort of field, right? I don't know if you were in the community, but you did you do some
20,
contract work?
27 years in the community.
Okay, so how many meetings a day do you say Kirkpatrick, a guy like Kirkpatrick would take? Safe to say anywhere between 10 and 20 meetings a day?
Oh, especially in his positions,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
So after he became a GS-15, which he was,
Yeah.
basically his entire day was meetings.
Right. Right. So I just did a little quick math, and maybe I don't know. You tell me, Bob. But I averaged about 13 meetings a day, and that was kind of like just between. I was going, oh, let me just go for the low end, you know. So 13 meetings a day. That's 3,250 meetings a year, and 39,000 meetings in a 7-year span.
I
Is it
quit.
is it
I'm
possible?
done.
Is it possible that maybe he forgot this meeting?
I believe with all my heart that he remembers about 10% of the details and 3 or 4 of the people who attended the meeting. But that's the kind of meeting you won't forget.
I don't know if he's not into the topic. I mean, look, I've seen this presentation, Bob. I've seen all. I used to be on a really good speaking basis with Brandon Fugel for a long time. Um, there's nothing in this presentation I think that would move the needle for a guy with Kirkpatrick's qualifications. And to be fair, like his qualifications are better than any whistleblower out there.
I
What
don't know about.
capacity do you think he came in though, Lou, and into the meeting?
Oh,
Um,
he was a high muckety muck in the space part of the U.S. Air Force before Space Force became into existence. He was a very high ranking person.
yeah. No, I think honestly, I really do think he was invited there by whatever lawmakers. I don't know if there were lawmakers. I got to look at the photo again.
It's all staffers.
Okay, it's all staffers. Okay, yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, man, I think this is just maybe a favor to a lawmaker saying, "Hey, can you please just be there? You're the smartest guy I know. If you're in town at this time, can you do me the solid?" And he's like, "Sure, no problem." And then somebody snaps a picture of him in a meeting, and boom, like here we go. Like I think Green Street brought up some pretty good points yesterday in the space that he was in. And the one thing that I noticed was, Green Street's biggest sort of beef here with the DoD is that they, they went through OSAP, saw that there was a lot of paranormal stuff going within that research, killed it, and then put the same guys in charge of ATIP or the UAPTF, excuse me. and it was just like it was like the DoD didn't learn their lesson. But in the time from this meeting to the renewal of the UAPTF, I think it was 6 years, if I'm not mistaken, because the UAPTF was officially formed in what year, Bob? 22.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 6 years. I think what's happening here is that in 6 years, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, but personnel is going to change, right? People who make decisions are going to change in those 6 years. And I think honestly, it was just a slip up by the DoD because people are changing within that machine, the grinder, so to speak. And the same guy's got the green light, and the thumbs up to look into like a Kona Blue program based off of the OSAP days. And then that didn't get approved because the DoD caught on to it. And then that's when Kirkpatrick comes into the conversation. So I don't know if he's a scumbag, Like I think this is
No, no,
just
no, no.
this is
I don't think he ever had anything at all to do with Kona Blue until the end, where he discovered it, and he
right.
used it as a way to say all of these morons were talking about Kona Blue, which never went anywhere and never did anything. It was disingenuous and misdirection.
Why was he disingenuous though? I guess that's my question.
Because he knew it never stood up. It never had an office. It never had a budget. It never had a telephone number.
Right.
It never had an email.
But
It
isn't
never
it
existed.
isn't but isn't that a good point to prove out to tell lawmakers, hey, look, the guys who did OSAP are now the same guys who are
No, no, no.
pitching Kona Blue.
But that's not what happened, Lou. What happened
What
was
well who pitched Kona Blue then?
he said I found a program where everybody that came to me kind of found this information out about these crash retrievals, et cetera, from Kona Blue, and it never existed.
Right, but I think it's rational to say that he's telling lawmakers, "Hey, the same guys that did OSAP are also the guys who wrote and proposed Kona Blue." I think it's a good idea to put the Kona Blue papers out there because here's the thing, Bob. If those Kona Blue papers leak instead of get released by the DoD, it's a mess. It's a conspiracy nightmare to keep track of what would be true with Kona Blue versus what isn't. I think releasing that document is a way for the DoD to get in front of a conspiracy theory.
Okay, except there are no Kona Blue papers. That was a Kona Blue proposal that was
Correct.
classified, but it never went anywhere.
No, but I understand it never went anywhere. Like it because the DoD was like, and lawmakers were like, no, no, we're not doing this again because yeah, you're right. They did it with OSAP and it was a waste of $22 million.
Was there anything after Kona Blue that was proposed?
No,
Like, I feel like there
no,
had to have been other programs.
no.
Well, we know that UAPTF, whatever it was, and AIMSOG, and then UAPTF, and then Arrow. I mean, those are the things that were
Yeah,
after.
but
But
those are congressionally mandated things.
exactly,
Those have nothing to do with Kona Blue whatsoever. So I think to
absolutely.
answer your question, as of right now, no, there has been nothing after Kona Blue because I think Congress has caught on to the pitch, so to speak, from the werewolves in trench coats guys.
Okay, so okay, I feel like what I'm hearing is that people are totally unfamiliar with the history of the Defense Intelligence Agency since its inception. So the Defense Intelligence Agency, people, let me say, people blame entirely too much stuff on the CIA that was never really their issue. The DIA was the home of remote viewing. DIA was a home
Yeah,
of a bunch
The
of stuff.
CIA is the one who's shut it down.
Exactly, and DIA picked it up, and ran with it.
Yeah, but then what does that have to do with Kirkpatrick, though?
Well, with
Oh,
Kona Blue, the Kona
yeah,
Blue, I feel like remote
yeah.
viewing was used as a way to like get into the crash retrieval because of the legitimacy and
Okay,
what's been
no, no,
spent on
no.
the remote viewing program.
Lukatsky was the scientist inside of DIA that managed OSAP and the relationship with Bigelow. So Lukatsky was the government contracting officer that ran OSAP with Bigelow. And when they were done, had all the DIRDs and went to ATIP, Harry Reid okayed for them to try to take it and go sell it someplace else because they couldn't get DOD to do it. And Lakatsky, Putoff, and all those people ran over to DHS and tried to sell it to them, and they sold it to the chief technical officer for DHS, and she became a major proponent of it. And they thought they were going to get going, and all of a sudden, the leadership from DHS squashed it. They weren't really given a reason.
I mean, I think the reason's pretty clear. You know, they don't want to waste more money
Well, you might be
on
willing to
stuff
say
like
that.
that.
You might be willing to say that. I'm just not willing to say that. All I know is that the leadership of DHS squashed it when the chief scientist for DHS wanted to go with it.
Right, primarily because I think the reason why the DoD said no thank you was because Lukatsky wasn't even on the property for more than 24 hours. Like he literally had a whole bunch of spooky events happen. Like, what are the
He pulled a
odds,
Green
man?
Street.
Yeah, like what are the odds, right? Like that you walk onto that ranch and every time somebody walks on, but we don't see any proof of that on a television show that's now got almost 45 episodes or whatever season we're at, almost 50 by the end of it. Like it just to me, Bob, it doesn't track. And for like for an intelligence guy in the biz for 20 plus years, like I'm surprised you don't see what's happening here. Maybe I think I'm too smart for my own good. But like, yeah, it's kind of wild when you call this guy
That's
a
not what I'm
scumbag.
seeing.
Yeah,
What I'm seeing is a bunch of scientific instruments that are recording a bunch of anomalies. Now, I don't know
like
what those
what?
anomalies are. You don't know what those anomalies are, but I can tell you the things that are whatever is causing the GPS signal to come down from orbit and be delayed so that a receiver thinks it's 5,000 feet below the surface, that is an anomaly worth investigating.
It might be worth investigating, but here's the thing, and this is what I asked Brandon Fugel on the phone one time. I was like, Brandon, first of all, I've got two big questions, but the first one was, if this is real, right? And you are guys are getting actual scientific anomalies, which, by the way, I never see a hypothesis thrown down first before they start doing science. But if it was such an anomaly, why isn't the University of Utah coming in here? Why aren't the 27 universities in the state of Utah all over this ranch?
Well,
Well, they're not
that's pretty.
releasing any data.
That's
Well, it's
not
not.
true at
It's not
all.
that. It's not that. Let me give people some reality. People that are at universities, they go do work once they have. What do they have? Funding. They're not going to go down there without funding, and there's no funding source. The funding source for what is going on at Skinwalker Ranch is a billionaire real estate person.
So let me get this straight. The billionaire real estate person is willing to help fund a television show, but not any one of the
He is not. There.
27
There is.
universities.
There
But
are.
not any,
There.
no, excuse me, sir. Let me finish. Not any one of the 27 universities in the state of Utah, like BYU, that he's an alumni at? What? Come on.
There are in fact research scientists from universities that have come there. But what I'm telling you is Brandon Fugel really wants to retain control of it. I'm sure of that.
That's
And
it right there.
so he is funding most of this out of his pocket. And uh the way I interacted with him. I interacted with him and Eric Bard for a specific reason. So I wanted to understand how this worked because I wasn't interested in being told what to do if I went there by a television show. And he explained to me how the operation works. And this is what he told me. I don't have firsthand information. I'm going to tell you what he told me. Eric Bard is the principal investigator. He and the team decide to do an experiment. They do the experiment, and the people from the History Channel, they are allowed to videotape, record, etc., anything. They may not interfere with any of the operations at all.
Bob, I know the producer of this show. Like, that's not
Oh, TJ?
entirely accurate. Yeah, that's not entirely accurate. But my greater point is if the thing that he wants control of is the IP, just like 20 and
Oh, I
back for
totally agree
Corey
with that.
Goode. So yeah, it's an IP. It's not a scientific discovery because the company's not an LLC with a scientific, a title to it. So, and here's, I think, the most important question. And this is the question that really Brandon just cannot answer, and nobody on the team can answer. And that is simply, according to Brandon Fugel, the Skinwalker is real. Do you think the Skinwalker is real, Bob?
I have seen no evidence of a skinwalker.
Okay, well, that shocks me. I thought you were going to go yes on that one. But so when you ask Brandon Fugel what if he believes that is a real thing that travels from person to person, I mean, Lukatsky claimed, I believe, or Jay Stratton believed, said that he knew someone who got cancer because of the Skinwalker. Jay Stratton, do you think Jay Stratton's lying, Bob?
No, because I know about what he went through.
Okay, so then you do believe in the Skinwalker.
No, I believe I believe he had an experience
Okay,
which led to him being sick. I
That could
don't
be
call it a
separate for
skinwalker.
sure
okay,
of
okay.
seeing
Maybe
something.
they
Yeah.
could be separate. My point here is that if he especially and his team on the ranch, which they do believe it is real, I think that's fair to say. If they do think it's real, why in God's name are they going to cons across the country and shaking hands and putting their hands or arms around people, taking pictures? Like, wouldn't you be scared or sort of worried that you were going
Like
to pass the
hitchhiker shit.
skinwalker? Yeah, like what? Like, or the hitchhiker? Like, why are they not afraid of that? And if they're not, why? Like, why is there no worry if they really believe it?
I'm telling this I guarantee you is something they have said is they do have hitchhikers. Jay took a hitchhiker home. A bunch of people took a hitchhiker home. Eric Davis took a hitchhiker home, et cetera, and they are
I
traveling.
haven't heard of one person from one of the cons held in Utah or any other place in this country where the hitchhiker or the skinwalker attached to anyone. So I feel
I
like
believe that. I believe
if
it.
that's if there's like a sort of a good sample size, I think that would be it right there.
I
Like,
think that's
clearly,
overestimated, though. Just the
well,
hitchhiker effect in general. I think that's a little bit too much played out.
well, not. I mean, played out. Yes, agreed. I mean, but they still like that's a big selling point to to sell the show. Is the
I don't
hitchhiker
doubt.
effect.
I do not doubt at all. The History Channel is playing that crap to the hilt to sell the show, and we have to admit it's working.
Oh no, bro! The first
It's
show I haven't even
it's.
seen the Skinwalker. The first show that I ever saw was last year. I never even knew about the show. The first show that I saw, they have this dude going up in a helicopter. He's hanging out of the fucking helicopter, and he's like doing something in measurements. And I'm like, this just costs like $100,000 to do. Like, why are you guys doing this? It's not repeatable. And then the data that they end up getting
It's
was
not
bunk
that
anyway.
expensive,
It
Astro.
was
It's not that
bad data,
expensive.
and
It's
so it
not
was
that
like,
expensive.
bro,
Yeah, like
yeah, but
the
you know what I'm saying? Like twenty
yeah, yeah,
thousand
yeah, yeah.
dollars to
I can
explore it.
I know a little bit about the budget, so I can kind of speak to it a little bit. I can tell you right now, it is a massive hit, but it's a massive hit in the wrong demographic. So yes, it is popular, but it doesn't attract the dollars that everybody thinks. So I would say, like, you know, a helicopter is not $10,000 to rent, especially when Brandon Fugel owns it. He probably charges fuel and like a $2,000 fee to rent the chopper for the day, and then sign an insurance
Well,
for it.
his brother owns it.
Correct. Yeah. So it's like, his brother gets a little like that's the thing with this show is that everybody gets kickbacks in a way. The state of Utah gets kickbacks for the film permits and the extra sort of revenue that comes through all of the people that are now visiting the state of Utah because now it's a paranormal wonderland. The cast members get a huge kickback, especially when we learn that some of them are getting $10,000 appearance fees in their own state to appear at their phenomenons. The companies that that they hire, those are also, like, again, revenues and things for the state that they could point out and go, look, we created jobs. Look at all these jobs, and we advertised their companies. Like, there are a lot of, like, things within this sort of machine of production that benefits everybody and very much also benefits Brandon Fugel because he owns all of this. He's literally the George Lucas of Skinwalker Ranch. That's what he's done. He's made an IP. It's an entertainment IP. There's nothing real. There's nothing paranormal, I think, going on in that ranch whatsoever at all.
Okay,
It is an
I mean, let me say one more thing about Brandon Fugel, an interaction I had with him. I said, Brandon, what I'm seeing is pretty expensive. I says, how is this going? He says, if I told you how much money I have gone through and how much money I have lost, and the show pays me not one dime. That's what he told me.
Just because it doesn't go to him directly does not mean he doesn't get paid on it.
What I'm telling you is he's out a lot of money, and
Bob,
I believe.
Bob, you do not do television for 4 seasons without getting some. It's against the rules. Even if it's not a union show, everybody must be paid. That is the rule, man. So I'm sorry, that's incorrect. Technically, it may not be a lot of money. That I would agree. But again, the back end stuff, the tax breaks that he gets every time he builds a building, because he's making Utah a destination for people who believe in paranormal things to go visit. So when he goes to the state, and by the way, Thomas Winterton's dad is a fucking congressman in the state of Utah. So it's like when he goes and says, "Hey, I need this piece of land and I'd like to get a good deal on it, or I'd like to get some back end deals on the taxes of it." The state of Utah's like, "Yeah, no problem, Brandon. You're doing all this wonderful tourism work for the state of Utah, of course." So everybody
Lou.
gets their.
You're not used to living in a place that's like Utah. But look. I'll tell on my family. I'll tell on my family. My grandfather was friends with Al Gore Sr. And so my grandfather owned a ton of auto parts stores and did a bunch of other stuff that I'm not going to bore people with. But he bought this farm. It was a few miles out of the town he was living in, and he wanted to build a house out there on that farm. It's a 1,000-acre farm in Tennessee. And he told Al, "Hey, Al, what will it take to get me an exit on the interstate so I can get to my farm quickly?" And Al Gore Sr. told him $50,000 to my campaign, and you'll get an exit. And it happened. That crap happens all over the country, Lou.
Yeah, I understand that, and I don't have the problem. That's not my problem with it, Bob. Like I've told Brandon that I was like, dude, I get it. Like I see exactly what's happening here. Like no problem. I'm like, my issue with it is when you see it's real, and then you go to cons telling people, yeah, it's real, and then they believe you and buy merchandise and watch your show and do all of these things based off of this belief that you've confirmed for them. That's where my issue is.
No, we
If
need the
it's
data.
entertainment,
We need
if it's
journals to be
entertainment,
able to
call it
publish that shit.
entertainment. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we need more. I mean, dude, like I would do, Bob. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but we would do for the first 3 seasons. We did Skinwalker recap shows. Every single episode, we would recap. By the by the middle of the second season of us doing that, we had the Dragon. We had we had Brandon Fugel. I think we had Thomas Winterton once, but Fugel was on the review show twice a year because and we would literally tell him to his face, like, yeah, there's no science in these episodes. Like, it's fun to watch, but there's no science. And there's no good, sort of comeback for that because it's true. There's no hypothesis set in these shows. There's no repeatable experiments. Like, all they do is just shoot rockets in the sky. Like, it's.
All right. We've got an ignition malfunction on the rocket. Stand by.
Yo, I'll say this though, the one where they had where they went out and actually, what was it, Beyond Skinwalker, where they went to other places with like Chris Bledsoe and mapped them out. I feel like that would be more valuable in being able to share that data. I do want to shift though, because obviously
Yeah, we put enough on this.
No, it's all good. This was
I
actually
love
pretty
sparring with you,
informative.
Bob. I love sparring with you.
No, it's good. This was informative, I think.
No, I didn't mind
Yeah.
sparring with you at all. It was fun. But we are not doing UFO disclosure or remote viewing.
No, for
well, I
sure.
don't think
But
Skinwalker Ranch is very influential in the disclosure movement of it. It's just a part of the entertainment of it to get people kind of aware of the topic.
you know how you notice how when they do drill into the ground, it's usually almost parallel to the ground.
Yeah.
The reason why they do that is because they don't have the land rights underneath the ranch. That's what
Oh,
I've
no
been told.
kidding.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's good.
that's my understanding. So that's why they never dig because they can only go so deep. and
Yeah.
so that's why there's a big spaceship underneath there because they'll never be allowed to dig under there. Never, ever, ever.
See, that type of shit drives me crazy, man. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. I didn't mean to kick it back to there, but the reason why I came up is just I heard Bob, call Kirkpatrick a scumbag. I was like, whoa, man, we don't have to do that. Like you're better than that, Bobby. We can spar anytime we want, but I'll leave the conversations. I'll let you guys go. But man, yeah. Hey, I also guessed that your remote viewing thing. So I hope let's see if I'm right on that.
oh,
yeah.
let's go. We got Lou
Yeah, so
remote
I'm
viewing
gonna
out here.
reveal the target in about 5 minutes. I'm gonna get
That's
it
what's
ready
up.
here, and appreciate everybody for coming up. Great discussion so far. Feel free to jump up, join the discussion.
You want answers! I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!